Yeah, welcome back. We are on Joy 99.7 FM, also on the Joy News channel on Multi TV and on DSTV channel 421. My name is Malik Abbas Dabo. I am here with Samson, Ladi, Anyenini, Efia Pokia of Adom News, and of course, Shamima, Muslim, Al Hassan. So we have done 2 stories. Yeah. Let's run through the rest of them. Shamima, what are the big stories for you? Well, apart from the 2 we have dealt with, what are the rest of the big stories?
You know, we can't have this conversation without not having a conversation about the economy and the budgets.
Absolutely.
So I think that the first budget was the Asempa budget,
which was delivered in March.
In March this year. So that was the next seminal thing that everybody was looking forward to hearing and figuring out just what great transformational ideas that will really change the structure of our Ghanaian economy. And, you know, unfortunately, I think that we're still doing housekeeping with our economy and our economics. I ran away from economics in 3rd year university. but I know it when I take my car to the fuel pump and buy fuel, and the next day the driver is saying, "Madam, we have to top up again." I said, "What are you talking about top up? Didn't we just buy fuel yesterday?" The fuel situation is a very serious situation. But for me, broadly speaking about the economy and the fact that like I was saying earlier, 60 years on, we still have not been able to transform the basic structure of our economy. The Nanado's
which the president says is the Gadgisburg economy.
Yeah. Since time immemorial, as you know, when I started media in 2008, it was debates about the Gadgisburg economy, because we all recognize that the structure of our economy and the way that we have integrated into the world economy puts us at a disadvantage. And this has been so even at the onset of the decolonization process, when, you know, most sub-Saharan African countries, as well as some parts of Europe, Asia and Latin America, sought independence. At the time, because of the nature of the European colonization, most of the colonized states were as part of the colonial division of labor. They were supposed to be primary exporters of, you know, raw materials.
And you have 60 years to correct that.
To fuel European industrialization. And you were told that, well, if you adopted our methods and our systems as fashioned out at the time by America, because that after the 1945 Cold War, post-45 Cold War, America emerged as the global leader because they didn't have the baggage of colonization, because they didn't colonize anybody. The European countries were recovering from the Second World War.
So after Second World War 45, then the collapse of the Soviet Union and
all of that. So America enforced its cultural imperialism and pushed all its methods across board. We're supposed to industrialize. We're supposed to have
national we have had 60 years to correct that. We still can't blame colonialism for that.
So there is a problem. So our leaders, what have they been doing? What have our leaders been doing? But the fact is that if you don't recognize your past and the way that you have been yoked into this structure, which is at a disadvantage to you, and the problems and the challenges you have to face if you wanted to extricate yourself from that structure. Because once you're still part of the global system where neoliberal policies of free markets and globalization, open your markets, the Chinese are now embarked on what we call in the development circles, the recolonization of Africa through extractive industry. Because they are the new colonizers.
Did you see anything, Shamima, in the budget that you would say initiates the steps towards moving away from this economy which you just
Unfortunately,
described?
I have to say that I haven't seen it. Because if, as we speak today, we are still under an IMF program, apart from Nkrumah and Achampong,
anyway.
Well, so apart from Nkrumah and Achampong, who didn't go to IMF for any policy credibility and surveillance and what have you and support, all other governments have gone to the IMF. So if IMF was able, or the Bretton Woods institution or the global governance institutions were able to deliver our pariah, the transformation that we need to truly industrialize modern states that's with high quality life, providing basic social services for our people, then we would say, well, maybe there's something to be said. But to the extent that we are still integrated in the same traditional way, I am not confident that within any time soon we are truly able to transform the structure of our economy.
And you don't see us taking the steps.
You see, so now we've been, the current government tells us about agriculture as the basic, you know, that agric is the tool with which they are hoping to change the face of our economy. Rightly so, because agricultural industrialization and mechanization fueled European modernization. Agric is good, but the fact is that now there's technology that would allow for you to actually mechanize agriculture and make it more productive, so you can release your youth and your human capital.
Which is why they are doing one village, one dam.
I always ask, what are the integration mechanisms? What is the free the agricultural program for planting for food and job? What is it going to feed into? So we have one district, one factory. What is the big plan? What are you telling us to expect in the next 5-10 years? Information communication technology fueled Asian industrialization. India, for example, by the time it secured its independence in 1947, by 1950, it had its first technology institutions. 50 years on, what are we talking about? India is now a net exporter of outsourcing contracts. So I'm saying that if we keep doing the little things, truly transformation will not happen. Right now, look at what the 4 army worms have done to the project of planting for food for jobs this year. We actually do not have the time or the luxury to continuously
112,000 hectares of farms were affected
this year, which means food productivity is going to go low. And once people
the
control...
Agric Minister says it will not.
Well, we hope so, but you see, Malik, if people control the food you eat, if you as a nation, with the paradox of the African situation, it's unimaginable. Potentially, we are the richest continent. Reality, we are the poorest continent. We have vast, arid lands. So why are we still not food secure?
So the economy for you...
So you must know that there are forces at play. And if our leaders are not able to take the hard decision, you see, China, South Korea, Singapore, they achieved progress with protective barriers. It is not possible that we can integrate the way that we are and expect, because the global cabal is not going to allow you to break this jinx of still maintaining this colonial structure of you being the providers of raw materials that now you're the markets for their finished goods. I'm not. You see,
she's more than a lecturer.
This is actually one of my very passionate topics, and that's why I love what Nanado is saying in his public speeches. I particularly love his address in UK when he met, was it some students or some Ghanaian
and even when he met the French president.
And then the French president. I love the indications he's giving out that, you see, this cannot be fair, this cannot be just, this cannot be allowed to continue. All of a sudden, the scramble for Ghana is again, see, you know, we have to ask why the European interest in Ghana all of a sudden. It is good for us publicly, but what is the plan to benefit from that?
What do you mean by all of a sudden the interest of Europeans?
They have always had, but the rate at which we have had back-to-back European leaders who are struggling after Brexit, looking for new alliances. What is your preparation? What are you ready to do?
It's only UK which is out of
No, but the European Union also needs new markets. They need to make new alliances. I'm saying that don't just take these things for face value. I'm just hoping that there are some critical thinkers behind Nanado who are thinking about how to position ourselves so we don't get shortchanged, because we continuously get shortchanged at the international level.
You see, the difference between the examples you're giving in Asia and Africa in particular is the lack of consistency in governance. You can't take away the fact that to be able to actually ground development, you need consistency in governance. We don't have it. You see, that's why
I think consistency in planning and thinking, or consistency
it all
in
comes
governance.
in governance. Malik, it's all under governance.
But the change in government does not necessarily mean inconsistency.
But Malik, you have to take into consideration the kind of background that we are coming from. In Africa, democracy hasn't helped us. So you need some kind of consistency. Yes.
Has it?
But you are beneficiary of democracy.
Yes, but we are talking about the ills of democracy.
You see, your trade without anybody holding you. Yesterday I was with you on radio. You said you were very, very critical of the government, and you went home and slept in peace.
Yes.
You can't do that in some other country. So that is the dividend of democracy.
Not necessarily.
So you cannot now
not
say...
necessarily. If, Malik, you study our history and you study our native custom, there was free speech. There was free speech. Unless you went into the era of defamation against the chief and all that you were summoned before the chief. So we shouldn't make democracy look like it's holy. It's also got its negatives, and it's also got its positives. The same way that if we had our native custom and governance, I don't think that we would sit here and say that, oh, we are enjoying freedom just because of democracy. I'm getting back to my point, which I'm saying that in Europe, they've gone through the phase that we are going through. In Asia, the example Shamima is giving from Singapore, China, and all that, they don't practice democracy through and through. Sometimes, if we have to keep quiet, and for us to get the development that we need, I think it is fair. Even if you go to Asia and those areas, I think that we're going too far. Take the Gulf, Qatar, Doha, Doha in Qatar, UAE. These people have developed their infrastructure over the last 20, 15 years.
But we don't need deprivation of liberties and rights to attain development.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying consistency in governance. That was my phrase in the beginning. Absolutely. I said we need consistency. What Nanado is saying, that Shamima is referring to, yes, it's good. The man is showing vision. He's showing that he believes that Africa cannot consistently rely on the West. But how long does the man have? 4 years. 1 year is already gone. 8. He has 3 years. So over the next 3 years, what can he do to change that narrative? The fundamentals of this nation's economy has largely been dependent on the West. Can he change that? That will take a while, longer than 4 years, longer than 8 years.
Is there the political will to face the consequence that might come? And that's what I was thinking.
That's another conversation.
Are there people who are doing risk analysis with these feelers Nanado is sending out? Are there people who are doing a risk analysis backdoor to recognize? Because, once upon a time there was an Nkrumah who said the same, if not more things.
And it didn't go anywhere.
Where did that end us? Or end Nkrumah?
But I think, Shamima, to be fair, if you look at the report, the documentation on the one district, one factory, the food for planting for food and jobs is supposed to dovetail into that the factory. So you have some kind of strategy. So
we are supposed to produce and process.
Yes. You have some kind of strategy, but I'm not sure whether we have, like Shamima said, the political will. We have the time to be able to execute that effectively and ensure that it actually manifests or benefits us. That's one I'm not very sure. But if you look at Ghanaians are very good in writing and planning, writing very beautiful strategies and all that. But at the end of the day, we don't see that much. Once upon a time, President Mahama told us that he was going to do the same. Once upon a time, I remember President Kufuor under his tenure said that he was mechanizing agric. Where did he take us? Mechanizing agric. There was money that was devoted
out of this economy. I don't know whether it is an indication of his economics not being very solid.
He's coming in. You see, once upon a time, and if you look at
I'll admit to you, is to interject when the women are talking. and in fact,
that's a good strategy that will give you peace.
When you have women who are speaking a lot of wisdom, you just shut up and it gets your turn.
Before I come to something, the point about mechanization, there are two things that stuck with me after President Kufuor's inaugural address, when he said that there are two most important challenges that face the Ghanaian people. Food. And he said, under my government, we will produce what we eat what we can, and can what we cannot. That stuck with me. And of course, he said something about petroleum products. But that statement about produce what we eat eat what we can and can what we cannot. By the time President Kufuor left the presidency 80 years after, what did we can?
It couldn't happen. Obviously, it couldn't happen, and we are all here to testify to that it didn't happen. You know, I think that over the years, we've paid lip service to our Greek. We admit that our economy is largely based on the agriculture sector, but we do very little to develop it. Over the years, our Greek has developed in negative terms. If you look at all the budget statements, it's just recently that it grew by 1%. When Fifi Kwete was there, we're growing in negative. We haven't done anything to help us in the agriculture sector.
So at
you
that
still
time,
have farmers who are farming with cutlasses and hoes, and yet we say we are mechanizing agri. We have a lot of NGOs in Ghana, from the north to the south, who are championing development, mechanization in the agri sector, but they are the only ones who are helping. What is government doing? And then government tells you, over the years, especially under MPP, because MPP is a capitalist government, so they've been consistent by saying that our job is not to do the job. Ours is to create the enabling environment. And you remember from President Kufuor's days, he said,
the engine of
golden age of business. You remember that jargon, golden age of business. Even under NDC, which claims to be a social democrat party, never did that much to help agriculture. And that's why I'm referring to Fifi Kwete's era,
to be
where
fair, they started the block farming under the late President Mills, and I remember that I did some work on it. They started a buffer stock company that had responsibility to buy food produce from farmers who were losing significantly. The problem is that the block farming just died off. The buffer stock company. Why did it die off?
You remember the Savannah, the SADA issue?
Yes, the buffer stock company was giving money, and I went to Tamale to do some investigations on this. They bought stacks of bags of maize.
And what happened to it?
Rice, millet, and just stocked them in the ginneries, the warehouses of the cotton ginneries.
And that was it.
And there was no process to process these things into finished goods and make
ties into the point I'm raising that.
I think that's where we didn't
over the years we have paid lip service to agri.
But you can give them some credit. Ghana, if you can give them some credit. So the Kufuor government introduced the fertilizer subsidy. The Mills government improved upon it, expanded it. The Mahama government also expanded it. I think in
2015, they didn't apply my four weights. What has been the cumulative effects of all of these policies today? As we speak, is Ghana food sufficient?
The cumulative effect.
We still import. Shamima, do you know that every month?
What do we import?
The cumulative effect is that, yes, we import more than $300 million worth of rice, but the cumulative effect is that in 2006, 2007, 2008, when there was food crisis in many parts of Africa, Ghana was saved.
But Malik,
so
you see,
that meant that at least we produced enough cereals and tubers to feed our people.
Malik,
people have stocks that will last them years.
For years.
They have stocks that will last them for
years. What are we talking about? No, wait, before something comes in, let me finish my point. I'm saying that the kind of agriculture thinking that we need, the vision, the kind of effort we need to put in developing this nation, it has to be a double effort, not the kind of fertilizers and all that, and then you have these allegations that often comes along with it, that they are giving it to political favorites, political parties. Even you remember the cocoa spraying exercise and all that. Look at your neighboring Cote d'Ivoire. Look at Cote d'Ivoire. The states, we have to move away from this rhetoric that the state has no business in doing business. You have to do business at a point. You have to.
Imani doesn't quite agree with you.
I don't worry. I don't want to bother myself about what Imani thinks. I'm also a Ghanaian and I'm a citizen. I worry about what I think. We can agree. Yes, we can disagree. But I'm saying that look, Cote d'Ivoire has the same land as Ghana, same land composition, when not that much difference. They have consistently led in terms of cocoa production. Why? We are paying less service to it. They are doing the job. So it's high time we just stop this agri distribution, spraying, we are giving this to farmers. Those are mediocre efforts. We need a proper strategic plan for the agri sector, dovetailing into the economy and saying that we're going to do this.
A Marshall plan for agriculture.
Hang on. Like Shamima said, between now and the next 50 years, this is what we're doing. We're taking from the president's passion that we cannot continuously depend on the West.
Have you read the President's Marshall Plan on Agriculture?
No, but you see, we sit in this nation. We have a lot of plans, and this is one of my problems.
Institutions like NDPC,
even the media, to be able to explain to people that, look, we are all on this tangent. This is our vision. Between now and the next 50 years, this is where we're going. Were we not sitting here when NDPC said they had a 40-year plan? Where is that plan? How is that plan dovetailing into the comments that President Anadu is saying? That's why I'm saying that consistency in governance is key.
Let me hear something on this one. Let me hear something on this one. Whether his economist is asking.
The women are, forgive us.
Right. When we come to talk about the economy and focusing it on the first budget, as you referred to, the Asempa budget, was it sowing the seeds for growth and also a Ghana Beyond Aid? I mean, the
growth is showing.
Yeah, the Ghana Beyond Aid mantra, I think, is going to be perhaps for the entire lifetime of the administration. But I like to look at some positives, and they give me hope that things will work well, that there will be a lot more improvement on what previous, administrations and the Mahama administration has done. If introducing such bold, revolutionizing initiatives like paperless systems at the ports, like what we are doing at the DVLA, if all of them, emanates from the economic plan and the budget, then I'm happy about that. Except that, of course, there are problems that are, showing up, and of course, it's to be expected with every new thing. So the problems will be ironed out and we'll perfect the system. If rolling out, an address system and looking at a property address system is part of the economic plan, I'm happy about it, because I have seen what happens elsewhere. And I wish the same for my country. And I think that these appear to be the basics that you need to ride on for the growth that you expect. Okay? Now, people may have their issues, for example, about the GPS, system. But I think that there's a lot more education needed for people to know what exactly that thing entails. It does appear people are not paying attention as to its uses and usefulness. So I think a lot more education is required. If you have tried using it, you could discover how it will make life a lot more easier. How things can be delivered to your doorstep, to your office, without hassle. I really think that we need to educate the people a lot about some of these things. If dedicating in excess of 2 million, towards the special initiatives is part of the economic plan, I am excited about it. How to ensure that these things are pursued and the monies actually go where they are supposed to go,
and there's value for money,
and not end up in people's pockets, because we have seen that happening too often. And Nana Akufo-Addo and the president and the vice president said over and again during their campaigns that they know that there's a lot that we can get by being, wise in our expenditure. The president promised us that he will ensure that there's value for money for every single item that we ought to buy or service that we ought to get. He reiterated this, firmed it up in his inaugural address again. In fact, if you go back to the inaugural address and track the things that are happening against the inaugural address, there are positives to pick out of it. Good number of them. If we dedicated as much as 400 million to start to ensure that everybody gets educated, whether or not, regardless of the background they are coming from, that after JHS they may not be able to continue after that point. And we know that the statistics have shown how, particularly girls in the deprived communities, and how society also has a way, they say culture. So they would like to take care of the boys, and let the girls stay home. If this is available, and we are not going to have the girls dropping out of school and continuing at least to get the basic senior secondary education. For me, these things give me the bigger picture of what economy I can expect, of what country I can expect if we follow these consistently and make sure that the money goes in, the problems that are coming out of them, we are solving them. Of course, you see government people, just deny the problems that we are beginning to witness in the implementation or rollout of the free SHS. I mean, these are things that are happening, and yet, just for the politics of it, they'll just, keep a blind eye. And how do you expect to improve?
What do you say to those who say, flip what you said, just for the politics of it? There are those who just lambast the system and attribute all manner of scandals to it, even normal natural events that occur, they attribute to the system.
Well, that's also bad. Of course, obviously bad.
And you know that is
that's not right, ought to be said. Yes, that's correct. But you see, I think the government still ought to listen. We're seeing pictures that are not photoshopped, practical problems. Okay, I have people I try to take care of, and when they report to you how the situation has become as a result of the free SHS, it is the reality, and the government must just face up to them and find the solutions and admit, rather than running away from it and telling everybody that they are lying or that they are telling untruth. It's wrong. Allow those who want to do politics to say young girls are getting pregnant because of free SHS. Okay, allow them to say that, but look into the merits. Look into what exactly is going on. If dedicating $1 million per constituency is part of the economic transformation plan, I'm excited about it. I'm looking at my constituency, where Dominic Ayene is a MP, and I'm looking at what that can mean for that, community.
Bolga East, right?
I'm looking at what that can mean for that community. And you see, we seem to have gotten a bit of some excuse about why you cannot have it now in this budget, but you can have it later. That also tells me how we didn't actually prepare and plan. Okay, the president has said in some quarters that, look, there was nothing in the kitty. Of course, that's not correct. That's not accurate.
Which is a refrain we have heard from every new government.
Right. So I have decided to look at matters that form the bigger picture, and that's, when properly done as the basis, will put this country on a pedestal that we should all be happy about.
Let's stick with that.
Even though I do not think that you need 110 people to
do that.
And I was expecting him to land on that one. Let's stick with the free SHS. Shamima, you have some comments on
that? The World Bank, if you went to the website right now, they have some key indicators to give you a global outlook of the world situation in a number of areas. And one of the things they talk about is that there is crisis in learning. Quality and quantity of education is reducing across many countries, and worse for developing and poor countries. They are arguing that especially at the basic level, reading and math skills are dropping at an amazing rate. You couple these statistics with the fact that they add, and I'll come shortly to that, they actually also add that the world population today is young, and between 15 to 24 years old, we have about 65% of the world population constituting 15 to 25-year-olds. If you come to the population of Africa, 1.2 billion people or so, we have about, what did they say, 525 million in young African people in 2015 alone. So this is the figures they have had. 15 to 24 people, 525 million unemployed youth. This is disaster awaiting to happen. So it is not rocket science that no serious government will pay lip service to education. Again, in the fact that they have added that human capital forms the greatest part of wealth for most nations. And you know why? Because it's innovation, it's technology. And for those that are at the forefront of innovation and technology, they are the ones creating the wealth for their nation. So you take the Silicon Valley, you take the Asians, and what ICT, information communication technology, is doing for them. So at the basic level, I had an opportunity to take part in some assessment that's going on, early grade reading and math assessment. Ghana partook in some global tests like that, where last, or if you want to see the glass as a half or full, we were first from the bottom. Early grade reading and learning. It means there's something wrong, even with the curricula as we have.
There's actually statistics that indicate that 90% of people in basic schools, especially in public schools, can't understand what they read.
They can't, or if they can read at all. Yes. Some can't even read.
Yes, they either can't read or they can't even understand what they read. 90%.
So there's crisis of learning and crisis of education.